form. Let's go to Facebook and Instagram and then go to Chatbot Flow Builder. And I have already built a workflow here that uses the dynamic carousel element. So this is the dynamic carousel element, and I am going to show you a preview of what it does. So it basically fetches data from an HTTP request. You can also get data from Google Sheet. And then what it does is after getting the data, it will map that data into your carousel, or what you call the messenger cards, and it will become dynamic. So the values are dynamically populated, and you don't have to manually add all of the card images or card title and card descriptions. It will be automatically populated depending on your source. It could be a Google Sheet or an HTTP request. So for this specific workflow, I have used the Movies API, and our source is the HTTP request. And what we are going to do is we are going to make a list of available movies automatically on our messenger. So let's view what it looks like. Okay, so we are now in Messenger. So we are going to trigger that workflow. So let's type movies here. So by typing movies, we are going to trigger the chatbot flow where the dynamic carousel is used. So after typing movies, we now have a list of movies here that is automatically populated. And once you go to the last section of the carousel, we are going to see the see more items. So we are going to see more movies that is available for this output. So as you can see, I did not type any of the carousel items here. I did not upload any photos. And if we click another element here to see more, and we would be able to view more movies just like that. So if we click this, the next 60 to 80, so as you can see here, we don't have a see more card because this output only shows 2 movies. So the first output, the limit is up to 20 movies. So we have the first 9 movies here, and then another 9 movies for the second output, and then for the last movie we have 2 output for a total of 20 movies. So we just viewed the first movie. So if we view the next movies, just click next 60 to 80, and we should be able to see the next movies that are available for the output. So here we have another set of 20 movies, and this is the first 9. And if we click see more, we would view more movies. So 9 plus 9, that would be equal to 18. So we have seen the first 18 output out of 20. And if we click the see more button here, we should see 2 more movies for a total of 20 movies for this output. Just 2 movies here. There's no more see more element. And if we click the next 80 to 60 movies here, you would be able to show the next output, the next 20 set of movies for this specific output. So it is all automatic, and that's how you use the dynamic output for your carousel. So the source is an API, and if we go back, just click the back to 80 to 100, and we should be able to see the previous 20 set of movies that we saw. So this is the previous 20 set that we already saw. So this is how we built that using the dynamic carousel element. So what we're going to do in this video is we are going to start from scratch, and we are going to build all of this flow to output all of the movies. So this is just one of the use case. There are a lot of use case here. Example, you can use an ordering chatbot, and you don't have to manually upload all of your products. images and descriptions, you can just put them on a Google Sheet, and after that, you can use that Google Sheet as the source of your dynamic carousel, and your data will automatically be outputted via a carousel automatically. So it is dynamic. So the function elements here are used to navigate the videos. So you might notice here that we have a navigation here, the next 80 to 100 or back to 80, 60 to 80. So the logic that controls which movies to show, or which batch of movies to show here, was controlled by this function. So we have functions here to update the back and the next button. And then we have a function here to update the what you call the label for your element. So button element. So the label here is the next 80 to 100, 60 to 80. So all of all this function does is display the number, which numbers to show up when you are on a specific page. Okay, so we are going to build a new flow. So let's open up a new tab here, and then what we're going to do is we're going to build a new flow. So create a new messenger flow. Let's say this is movies replicated. So we are just going to replicate what we have done previously. Okay, so let's start from scratch. We are going to start off by creating a dynamic carousel element, and then we are going to configure this element. So if we configure this, just click, and then we are going to choose a data source. In this case, we are going to use the HTTP request as our data source. So choose this, and then go to next. Once you have chosen the data source, we're going to configure that. So for the HTTP request, we need the request URL and the parameters. So we are just going to copy what we have here. So this is what we call the movies API. And what this does is this API outputs movies, and we have you can navigate via the page parameter here. So we are going to put the URL here, the request URL, and we are going to add parameters. So the parameters needed here is the first one is the API key. So we are going to add the API key here, and then add the value of the API key, and then we are going to set this parameter. Okay, the first parameter is set. The next is the language. So we are going to set the language here. So we are just going to copy the language, and then we are going to set this parameter. And lastly, the page. So for the page, the default value of the page is 1. So for now, let's just use the value of 1, and then later on we are going to make this value dynamic. So it is not hard-coded. We're just going to change this value depending on the interaction of our subscriber with our chatbot flow, whether they go next or they go back. So just like this one, we can click next here, and then or we can go back. So those interactions, we are changing the value of the page of the API. So that controls which movies to be displayed, which batch of movies to be displayed here. So for now, since we are just building out our flow, we are just going to use the default value, which is 1. So once this is good, we can click the test request button, and let's see what output we will get here. So click map response here. As you can see, we already have a response, and this is our response. So as you can see here, we have a source array. So this will generate a lot of arrays, and then we are going to choose which of the array are going to be or is going to be helpful, that would output the needed items here. So in this case, the results parameter of the array is the one that yields the movies data. So this is the example of data for our movie. We have the language, the title. We have here the title and the overview, and then we have the backdrop path. So this is just the image. But what we need here is this one, the poster path, because this is the poster of the image, the picture that we are going to use for our dynamic carousel. So once we have chosen the source element array, we are going to configure we are going to assign those values for our carousel. So the carousel, we have a title, a text, the image, and the image redirect here. So for the title, we are going to assign this. So we have here the original title. So if we go to the next, we can read it here that we can assign this custom variables. And what we need here is the original title. You can also use the custom variable here. Just click the custom variable and then choose the array item here. You can also use your custom variables, the custom variables that you have created before. And for the array item, this is actually the result of our API. This is the data that our API gave, so that's why we are going to use the variables from the array item. So we are going to use the original title for our title element, for our title field here. For our text field, this is the description or the what we call the overview of the movie. So we are going to choose the overview of the movie here. Just click custom variables for this one, and then here we have the overview. So we are going to add that. So if we go back here, this is what we need to be displayed here. So this is the overview of the movie, this one. This is the overview. The overview only limits us up to 80 characters, and also the title, we have 80 characters here for the limit. And if we go over that limit, then our text will not be displayed, just like here. So the overview have more than 80 characters, and what's displayed here is only the first 80 characters. Okay, so that's the Facebook limit, and we can't do anything about that because that's what they specified as the limit when you create a carousel. So this is the image, we have a title, and we have the overview here, or the text. So if we go back, and this is the text, that is the overview. Okay, this one, the overview field. And then for the image, actually the image, what's provided here is just the image path. So we need the image, what do you call this, the image host. So the image host, to get the image host, actually it came from their API documentation. What I'm gonna do is just I'm going to copy this. So this is the API provided the image host. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm going to copy the image host, and then I'm going to go back configuring my dynamic carousel. I'm gonna go to next, and for the image, I'm gonna add first the image host here. So this is my image host, and we are going to add the image path. So the image path here is actually this one, the poster path. So we are going to append this value to our image host. So since we already have an image host here, we can go to custom variables, and then on the array item, we are going to choose to add the poster path here. So click the poster path and let's add that. So this will automatically be added. The image or the poster path value will be added to our image domain, and it would result on a working image. The image redirect, actually, if we click the images, if you have a URL, example for your use case, if you're using it for your products, if you have a product URL, or your API gives the data of your product URL, you can use that so that when people clicks the image, they will be redirected to your product or to the URL that you have assigned for your dynamic carousel. But in this case, we don't have an image redirect here because our API here does not provide the image redirect. So let's leave it as blank. We also don't have a button here because we don't have anything to assign a button. For now, let's leave the button configuration as black. For the carousel, you can add up to 3 buttons. So you can configure each button if you want, but for now, let's not configure a button. We are not going to add a button. So let's confirm the changes. And what we're going to do is we are going to check if we have done this correctly. So I'm going to add a trigger here because I'm going to check if this workflow is working. So use the keyword trigger, and in this case, I'm gonna use the keyword movies test, and then instead of white, I'm gonna use the strict type of the keyword. So click OK, and then I am going to hit save. So as you can see, we have a conflict keyword here because we already used the movies keyword. So let's use another keyword. So let's just say test. No, let's just say 1, 2, 3 test. Okay. And then we are going to click OK and then save. Hopefully we haven't used that keyword before, and yeah, we haven't used that keyword before, so there are no conflicts. So I am going to copy my keyword and then go back to Messenger. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna type the keyword so that it will trigger the new flow that we have created. As you can see, it triggered the flow well. And yeah, we have the movies here. So we don't have any navigation, just like previously the one that I have shown you, but I will show you how it is done. So we have the first 20. Okay, so what's displayed here is only 9 movies because we have a total of 10 carousel elements. So the first 9 elements would represent each movie, and the last element would be used to navigate for the next batch of our movies, the next 9 batch. So for the dynamic carousel, we can only display up to 9 here because element, the last element here is reserved for the view more items. So we have already seen the first 9, the second 9, and the last one. We have 2 elements here. So as you can see, we don't see any see more items here because we did not go over the 10 limit. Okay, so that's the correct display. So we can further configure this. So let's discuss first the parts. So if there are no values found, we can send this message. Let's just say sorry, no more movies to display. Okay, so whenever there are no movies to display, if there are no values found, so once there are no data that can be displayed by the API, we are going to send this. So that's the fallback value. And we can add a quick reply here. So let's just say next. Okay, and then we can say back here. So we have two quick replies here, and what we're going to do is we are going to make these quick replies dynamic. So here, this is what we need to do. We are going to make the page dynamic because the page here would represent the batch, okay, the first 20 batch, because the API movie here would only yield 20 results. If we check the test, you can see here that we only have 20 items here. So we have 20 items. So this is the first 20 items of the movie. So if you want to view the next 20 items or the 20 to 40 items, we need to change this into 2. And if we want to view the next 20 items, the number 60 to 80 items, we need to change this to 3. So on and so forth. So this value needs to be dynamic. So in order to make this dynamic, we are going to use a custom variable, and we are going to make that variable changeable, or we are going to update that value based on the user interaction. So let's create a custom variable here. Click the create custom variable button, and then we are going to say this is the movie page value. So we are going to say this is the replicated version because I have already created a custom variable for my demo. But let's just say demo movie page value. So the fallback value is the default value. So the default value of the page is 1. So if there are no values found here, or if the user did not interact, then the system would use this value, the number 1 value. So I'm gonna click OK. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm going to edit my HTTP request. And instead of hard coding number 1 here, we are going to use the demo movie page value custom variable. So I'm gonna add it, then transfer the value here. Oops, sorry. Transfer the value here. Okay. So cut and paste. Good. So now I am using the demo movie page value, and we have a default value here of 1. So even if there are no data yet from our subscriber, then the system will use 1. Another way that you can override the value here is by adding a vertical line here and adding default value here to example 5. So this is another way to override the default value, or you can just remove the default here and just use the vertical line and then add the default value or your value override on the next. But this is not required. You can just leave it as is. So just that's just additional information. So yeah, after this we are going to send a test request and it should work as usual. We have 20 items, and then we are going to click next, and this is the carousel item values that we have assigned. So I'm going to click OK. So what we need to do is whenever they click the next button, whenever they need to click the next button, we need to change the value of the movie page from 1. We are going to add 1 there so that it becomes 2. And then whenever they click another one, we will add another 1 value there so it becomes 3, and so on and so forth. So to do that, we need to use the function element here, and we are going to add a little JavaScript code. So let's delete the default value here and then add the custom variable demo movie page. So this is the custom variable that contains the value 1. So what we're going to do is we are going to make sure that this is a number. So let's just say let page is equal to number. So we are going to convert this custom variable into a number, and then we are going to add 1. And after adding to 1, we are going to return the value of the page. Return page. So after returning the value of the page, once this is activated, then whatever the value here will be incremented or will be added by 1, and then that value is returned, and it will be save the output to this custom variable. So meaning we are going to override the value here. So example, our value for demo page or movie page value is 1. It will be added to 1. It becomes 2. So now the movie page becomes 2. So that's how it works. So that's the next value. So how about the back value? So the back value, it's really easy. We are going to add a function element. And just like before, we are going to add the movie page, and then we are going to make sure that this movie page is a number. So let page is equal to number. Okay, so now that we are sure that this is a number, okay, number, we are going to subtract this value by 1. Okay, so whatever the value here, it becomes 1. But we need to set the minimum value because the minimum value that the API accepts is 1. We don't want this to become 0. So in order to make this, to ensure that this is not 0, we are going to have a little function here. So bear with me. So if we are going to add, a very specific function. Okay, for newbies, we are just going to use this one. If the page value is lesser than 1, okay, because if the page value is lesser than 1, or if the page value is 0, make the page value as the default. So the default is 1, override. Okay, and then we are going to return the value of the page. Okay, so this is a very simplistic way to do that. Another way or another shorthand for this is this value. We can just do this. If the page value is lesser than 1, we are going to return the value of 1, but else just return the value of the page. So this is a shorthand. You don't have to do this, but I like to do it this way. But if you are not familiar with this format, let's just do the format that is easier to read. If the page is lesser than 1, then page will become 1, and then return the value of the page. Okay, so confirm the changes. Okay, good. And after that, we are going to display again this element, but this time it will not yield the same value because we have already incremented or changed the value of the demo page value. So we can just reroute the page back here. Just reroute it back, and I assure you it will not display the same value again because we have changed the value of the movie page. So let's save the changes that we made, and then what we're going to do is we're going to test this again using our keyword. Okay, so test the keyword here, and then we should see the update. So we added the next and the back buttons. Okay, so we have the next and back buttons here. So here, let's just say that this is the first 20 set. So the first 20 set, the first display is this one, the Terrifier. Okay, so if we go to the next set or the next output, okay, so this is the first 9, and if we click see more, we will be able to see the next 9 value. So this is the next 9 value. So we have already seen 18 movies. So this is the first 18 movies. And then the first set consists of 20 movies. So we should see 2 more. Okay, for a total of 20 movies. So this is the first set, the first 20 movies. Okay, now what if I want to see the next set 20 movies? I'm just gonna click next. If I click next, then the value will be incremented to 1 by 1, and then it will display a different movie. It should display a different movie. So as you can see here, the first set is this one. So this is a completely different set from the previous value here. So the first value that we displayed here, the first 20 set, okay, so this is the first 20 set, but the next 20 set is a different value. So if we click more, okay, we should see here the next 9 value. Okay, this is the next 9 value of the movies. And if we go to the last, if you click see more, we would be able to see the last 2 values because our API limit is only 20. So it really depends on the API that you use. So we have seen the 2 movies here. So if I click back here, we should be able to see the very first set, the first 20 set. So let's see if it will yield the first 20 set. Okay, as you can see, it yield the first 20 set because the first 20 set, the first movie of the first 20 set is the Terrifier 2, just like what we have seen here on the very first set, this one. So we have triggered, this is the first part of the trigger. And if we go to the first element, as you can see, the movie is this one, the Terrifier. So this is the same, meaning the back and the next is working. Okay, our back and next button is working really well. So we can the term is paginate. Okay, we can paginate between the batch of movies. So that's how it is done. So how about this? On the previous example, I have shown you that there are markers here, the first 20 movies, 1 to 20, 20 to 20 to 40, just like that, so that it's easy to view which batch we are seeing. So in order to do that, we are going to add a label. So as you can see here, the next is hard coded. It doesn't change. So to make it change, depending on our interaction, we are going to use a custom variable here. So let's just say we are going to create another custom variable here. So demo movies next label. Okay, so this is my custom variable, demo movies next label, and the default value would be next, and then from 1 to 20, because we by default we are seeing the first 20 batch, or the first 20 batch of our set. So that should be the first value that we are going to use as the fallback. Okay, now we are going to add another custom variable. This is for the back label. Okay, back label, and we are going to go to we are going to use the numbers 1 to 20 because this is the default. You cannot go from 0 or lesser than 0 here. So this is the default value. And then the next step is, instead of using the next here, we are going to use the custom variable. So the custom variable that we need are this one. Oops. These are the custom variables that we need. The demo movie next label, and another is the demo movies back label. So we are going to use those custom variables. So instead of next here, we are going to delete that. We are going to add the next. Okay, demo movies next label. Okay, so what happened here is we have a limited characters, so we need to change the variable here. We need to use less characters because it doesn't accept many characters as our text for the quick reply. So the value is next 1 to 20. So demo next, and then we are going to use here demo next. Okay, great. And then we are going to add another variable here, demo back, and then the fallback value is back 1 to 20. Okay, great. That should do the trick. So demo, instead of next, demo underscore back. Great. So now the label of our button is dynamic. What we need to do is we are going to update the values of our labels. So let's just test first, and then we are going to adjust the values. So let's go back to Messenger and trigger our flow. So the keyword that we used is this one. Okay, let's trigger the flow. Let's see the changes that we made so far, or our progress. Okay, so it triggered the flow, and yeah, so we have the values here. So this is the default value, and if we click next 1 to 20, it doesn't do a thing. It doesn't do a thing because I mean, it will do a thing, but the value next 1 to 20, it will still be the same. It will not change. So let's go back. I think what we need to do here is the first 1 to 20, or the next value should be 20 to 40, right? Because we are already seeing the first 1 to 20. So we are going to edit the custom variable. So go to utilities, go to custom variable. We are going to edit the demo next here. Instead of 1 to 20, let's display 20 to 40. Okay, because we are already displaying the 1 to 20 movies. So let's update the default value, and let's go back to our flow. What we're going to do is we are going to make the the labels dynamic. So how do we do that? First, we are going to add a function element, and then we are going to update the next label. So let's change that. Okay, so let's add a little code here. So the factor here, the biggest factor here is the movie page. So let's have a variable here. Let page is equal to the number. We are going to make sure that the movie page is a number. Okay, demo movie page value. So this is the custom variable that we want. So this is the page. So what we're going to do is we are going to return this value. So next, and then we are going to use the before and then after. Okay, so now what we need here is to change the before and the after values. So that is the value that we are going to return here. So the before value, actually the before value is only, so first we are going to define the limit. The limit here is 20 because that's the limit of the API that we used. So the before value is actually the current page value multiplied by the limit. Okay, so that's the before value. So what is the after value? So the after value is actually this one. The page value added by 1 multiplied by the limit. Okay, so that's it. So the after value, so the page will be added by 1 multiplied by the limit. So example, the page is 1. So 1 times 20 is 20. So the before would be 20. The before value would be 20, and the after value would be 1 plus 1 equals 2 times the limit. 2 times 20 equals 40. So that's the value of the after. So next, 20 to 40. So that's the correct formula. So we are going to update the demo next custom variable. Okay, so we are going to copy the code here because we are going to use the same code, almost the same code, to update the next label. Next, we are going to add another function here because we are going to update the next label. So clear all, add this one. But this case, instead of adding value to 1, we are going to subtract the value. And this value, this one is the before. Okay, this one is the before value, and this one is the after value. Okay, great. So the before value, where the page will be subtracted by 1 multiplied by the limit, and the page or the after would be the current value of the page just multiplied with the limit. Okay, I think that would work. But first we need to make sure here. Yeah, we already made sure that the page doesn't go lesser than 1. So I think we are safe here. So we can save this on our demo back custom variable. So let's confirm the changes. So what we need to do here is this one needs to be updated at the same time. So we are going to connect all of this. And this one, instead of connecting it directly to the dynamic element, we are going to first make sure that the values gets updated, or the value of the demo next and the demo back custom variables are updated before we are going to send the dynamic carousel. So just like here, we are also going to update the values. So we are not going to send the message directly back here. We are first going to update the value of the demo next and the demo back custom variable before we send again this message. So that's how it is done. So once the user clicks demo next, we will calculate the next page number, and then we are going to use that number to update the label. Okay, so once that's done, we are going to click save. And what we are going to do is we are going to refresh the values here because the user that I used here already have this value, so it might mix up. So let me just make sure that the values are refreshed for that subscriber. We are going to delete the user data that is attached to the subscriber so that the subscriber, it's as if the subscriber interacted with our flow from the start. Okay, so let's go to Facebook and Instagram, go to subscribers, and then I'm gonna search for the subscriber, and then I'm going to delete the user data that is attached to that subscriber. So let's edit this. So as you can see here, these are the data that was attached. So what we are going to do is we are just going to delete all the values here and then click submit. So this is optional actually. This is optional. I'm just going to show you that you can add and remove user data directly from your subscriber list. Okay, let's edit this again. And we are going to trigger this flow to see how this works. Okay, let's trigger the flow. And then we are going to see the magic happen here. Okay, so that's the trigger keyword. And then boom, as you can see here, this is the correct default value because we are already seeing here the first 1 to 20 values, and this is the first 9 of that 20. If you want to see all of the 20 values, just click the see more, which is located at the very last element of your carousel. So let's see if the value gets changed here. If I click next 20 to 40, I want to view the next 20 to 40 movies, the next set of 20 movies. Great. As you can see, it is working, and the value here changed from 20 to 40 to 40 to 60, and also the I think this is wrong. Next, it should be back, right? I think we updated the wrong value here. So this is the demo back. So instead of next here, change it to back. Okay? Okay. So we are going to save, and then we are going to see if that works. So click next here. Next 60 to 40 batch of our movies, and we should see the update now. We change the label of our okay, great. We changed the label of our quick reply, and it's now using the correct label, back 40 to 60. So if I click back 40 to 60, I should see the codename Banshee movie. So if I click back 40 to 60, if all is working correctly, I should see the previous batch, which is codename Banshee. Great. I am now seeing the codename Banshee, which is correct. It is functioning correctly. So the next batch, which is 40 to 60, I should see this movie, Doctor Strange. I should see that movie because that's the first movie of the next set. Okay, great. This is working correctly. Okay, if I click next 60 to 80, I should see that as well. I should see that. The next movie at okay, great. This is the next 60 movie. And if I want to view more, I can click see more at the very last element of my carousel, and I should see the next the next set. Okay, so this is not the next batch. Okay, so this is the next 9 items of my carousel because in total it should be 20 batches of 20 items for this batch of movie, and I am only seeing the first 9 here because the 10th element is reserved for the view more items, and this is the second 9 element. So this is a total for a total of 18 movies. Okay, so the last element is reserved here for the view more items, and since we already seen 9 movies or 18 movies, we should see 2 more movies available here. And as you can see, this is the last 2 movies for a total of 20 movies. Okay, next 80 to 100. This should work. I should be seeing the next 20 batch of movies. Okay, great. So as you can see, all of these are dynamic. I did not add 1,000 movies here. All I did was configure the source and then configure the pagination, the page of my source here. I made this dynamic so that the user can browse the movies from my chatbot. So that reached the end of our lesson. I hope you learned a lot how to use the API or the HTTP request as your data source for Dynamic Carousel. You can use any API that yields value here. You can add headers here if your API requires authentication. You can add that. Or if your API needs post request, you can add the body request here so that the value gets returned, and then you can use those values as a data source for your dynamic carousel. If you need help, just let me know, just let the team know, and I hope this feature would be very helpful to you. This has a lot of use cases. It's only limited by your imagination. So on the next video, I'm going to show you how to use Google Sheet as the data source for your